Welcome into a special edition, I like to call it, with breaking news around the Chicago Cubs of our Cubs REKAP Podcast, a presentation of our REKAP YouTube channel, and available audio only everywhere you get your favorite podcast. Happy holidays, everybody. That is my partner, Gordon Wittenmeyer. I'm David Kaplan. We were going to talk about Cody Bellinger. We were going to talk about what moves they could make. And then, bam, big news. Sammy Sosa is being welcomed back into the Cubs family. I spoke to Sammy on Thursday, the 19th of December. We had a short conversation. He said, "Oh, my friend, I will call you tomorrow. We have to talk. I'm so happy, so happy." So it's something that I thought should happen. Many thought should happen. And he and Tom Ricketts have found a way to bridge their differences. And Sammy Sosa is coming back. We'll read you the statements in a moment. Gordon, your thoughts?
About time, right? I mean, for all the controversy that this guy created, the way he left, the steroid stuff, all the talk about that, even the cork bat, anything that anybody could throw at this guy and have a problem with, it has nothing to do with this. He did so much for this organization. He should be. We've talked about this before. There is no reason that he shouldn't have been brought back to Cubs convention, to maybe have a day, throw out the first pitch. This should have happened years ago. And for it to be over, I don't know, some strange principle that somehow supersedes the principle of money that this organization has lived by ever since the dawn of time, but certainly since the Ricketts have taken over, and they're the ones that kept this from happening for so long. It's what the fans deserve. It's one of those few things the fans are finally getting back in recent years from this group.
Do you think that it goes deeper than that? And while all of us like to think that it was about the principle of apologizing, all of it, that it goes back to a trip that my partner here at the REKAP, Ryan McGuffey, and I, and David Haw took to Florida several years ago, when Sammy's people reached out and said, "Sammy would like to talk with you. He wants to do it on camera. He trusts you guys. He would like to sit down, he and I, one-on-one, and he wants to clear the air on his problems when he was playing and how it affected his career. And however it was going to go, it was going to be something like this." And we flew to Florida. This is a true story. Ryan and a couple of cameramen, I think it was Matt Buckman and a guy named George, who I can't remember, who flew down. David Hall was with us. He was going to write a column. And we got there, and Sammy pulled out at the 11th hour. He said, "Yeah, I can't do it." And that's what I think the Ricketts felt. They had been led down the path. We're going to work this out. Sammy pulled the plug, and that's where we find ourselves until yesterday.
Yeah, as far as finding a direct line from there to how long this took to get here, I'm not sure that the line would have to be that direct. I think that more than anything, that speaks to maybe how difficult he is to work with, right? And this is the unpredictability of his personality is probably as much as anything in the calculus of all of this. Like if you talk to him and you make an agreement and he's going to be at Cubs convention and it's going to go like this or that, what if it doesn't? What if he, what if it becomes, a shit show, and maybe that's what they were afraid of all along, as much as anything. But really, honestly, it could be any number of things. And at the end of the day, it was really easy for the team, and for any number of years now, at least the last decade or so, especially after they won, with all the goodwill that was involved there, to take the high road on this. And the fact that they didn't for so long, the fact that we've gotten to this point, to me, what it does is it opens up all these questions. And you hear all over media, radio talk shows where people are calling in, with conspiracy theories. Well, I wonder how much he's getting paid. Is this going to suggest that this is as good as it gets after getting Kyle Tucker, that they're really not going to, this is a distraction for nothing coming next, and things like that. And those are almost legitimized conspiracy questions because of how long this took and sort of the choreography of the moment. Because clearly this was negotiated and the statements came out back to back.
Okay, so let me give everybody, I'm going to spit facts here. Sammy is getting paid exactly $0. I confirmed that this morning. 0. There is no promise of a job in the future. There is simply an invitation to Cubs convention and a rekindling of the relationship. In addition, multiple people, whether they're at the Cubs or someone else who's a good friend of mine with another team, they expect the Cubs to be, as this guy said to me, not with the Cubs, uber aggressive to add on. They said, you're going to get a really high level starting pitcher and probably 1 to 2 bullpen arms. Beyond that, I don't know what they're going to do, bench bats or whatever, but they believe that the Bellinger money will get spent and that this actually was not really in the works that long, that this was something. Sammy is a different human being today. He has embraced religion. And Sammy said, okay, enough. This has got to get fixed. And I do have to shout out a couple people who I thought really played a key role in this. Joe Johnson at Obvious Shirts, who's a dear friend of me, of all of us here at the Recap. Joe and Stuart McVicker from Club 400. They brought Sammy to Chicago this summer. They started that process again after we tried a few years ago when we flew to Florida. We did end up flying back to Florida, interviewing Sammy again, where he apologized for mistakes, but not as specifically as he did this time. And then when Sammy decided he wanted to get this thing moving and was going to release his statement himself, that's when the Cubs responded. There is no conspiracy to this. All right, let's do this and we don't have to spend any money. I think that's laughable.
Yeah, well, I hope you're right on all of those fronts, and I assume you're right on the money, because it didn't make a lot of sense to me that after all the money that guy made, this would require money. So that never made any sense. My only point was that the timing and all the time that's elapsed legitimizes questions. So that's all I'm saying. But it does make sense in this regard that it might be happening now with that timeline you just laid out, because Tom Ricketts in particular, has painted himself into this corner over the years at the Cubs conventions and other places when he's been asked about Sammy, and he's talked about things like apologies. So once he sort of drew that line, which might have been unnecessary, but he was, I take him at his word. He was trying to give an honest answer to an honest question. But once he did that, he painted himself into a corner, because now he needed the apology from a guy that's mercurial at best. And when it finally came, it makes sense that he would jump at that opportunity. I'm picturing Cubs convention at this point, and I'm comparing it to when they trotted out Kerry Wood in that surprise move and brought him back to the organization, about 15 years ago. The place went nuts. The roof flew off the building. It could be something like that. And that's kind of exciting to think about. This brings the organization full again, right? I mean, now everybody's back. Yeah.
I completely agree. In terms of, I was listening to somebody today. Are they getting a statue right away? Commission? No. Maybe someday. He's the only man look, whether he did it with performance-enhancing drugs or not, I had a front row seat for all of this. I joined the Cubs broadcast team in 1995. Sammy was rolling along. 96, he had 40 home runs on August 1st. I think it was 96, and he broke his hand. He got hit by a pitch. But in 98, 99, and 2001, he hit 60 or more 3 times. He's the only man in the history of the sport to ever do that. Not McGuire, not Bonds, Sammy Sosa. He's got over 600 home runs. This guy, in my world, I have always told you, Gordon, and we've debated this, should guys who use performance enhancing drugs get in? And people, I've always said no. Guys and gals have said to me, guess what? There's guys are in that Hall of Fame now. You don't know if they used or not, but they were nice to the media, so they get in. That's what people say. Not saying
that's bullshit. That's bullshit. I'm in the media and I'm a voter, and that's bullshit. I vote for people I hate because I think that, or that I disrespect, put it that way,
right.
that have treated me and colleagues wrong because they deserve to be in. Mm-hmm. I mean, we get nothing out of it. I heard somebody that, to me, these are two separate issues. He deserves to be part of this organization. He deserves to be embraced by this organization. That has nothing to do with the Hall of Fame. But I heard somebody on the radio even this morning who was suggesting, they were, screaming and moaning about, he's a liar, this, and he's always been a liar, and Major League Baseball hypocrites, and the media hypocrites. The media covered steroids up for years because, and baseball covered it up for years because they made so much money. There was nothing in it for the media to cover it up. The problem with the media for so many years is there's so many sports writers that are ill-equipped to cover actual, real, hard news. Mm-hmm. And also there's libel issues. You can't just throw this stuff out there. You have to be able to confirm things and then corroborate what somebody tells you. So when baseball is not investigating, we can't report on a non-existent investigation into this.
That is correct.
So there's only so much you can do. And by the way, the people who did begin to uncover this in the media were well rewarded for it. So nobody in the media is covering it up because they're getting something out of it. You want to be the one reporting that because you get something out of it.
Let me ask you a question. Does it matter to you? I'm simply asking the question. It's what we do here. We drive conversation. The fact that maybe a player, whether that's Sammy or anyone else, allegedly used performance-enhancing drugs, but they took them in the Dominican, Mexico, Venezuela, where they are not illegal. They are illegal in the United States. Does that change it at all for you?
No, because I'll tell you a story about what solidified my position on this. I always looked at it as cheating the game, cheating opponents, cheating history. And so you can quibble with that, and there's legitimate debate on that. When my first year I voted, my son was 12 years old, and Mark McGwire was on the ballot for the first time. My son, big sports fan, and we're sitting around just before Christmas time, and the ballots are due at the end of December. So I incorporated him into the conversation. I sat down at the table with him, and I laid out the ballot, and I laid out all the bios, and then we talked about each candidate. And when we got to McGwire, I didn't cast any judgment. I didn't say he should or shouldn't. I just said what we knew, that the Andro reports, the steroid allegations since, and that there's a widespread belief that he did take these things that helped him hit the home runs. He said, well, Dad, isn't that cheating? And I said, well, it is. I mean, he didn't do it in public. He did it privately, and he admitted it later. It is. He said, well, then we shouldn't vote for him. As a 12-year-old that sees the difference between cheating and not cheating. And then and so it is, to me, as simple as that. But even beyond that, if we're talking about tangible things, right? Like, I take this very seriously. These are players who were already established major leaguers. If you're in position to be making a Hall of Fame, you're probably an all-star level player, at least occasionally an all-star level player, certainly a starting level player in the major leagues without the steroids, in all likelihood. You've got a chance to be a competitive, productive player. These are the best of the best of the best. They've already made all their money. They're super famous. They've got awards out the wazoo. I'm not taking anything away from them and their families in any sort of tangible way by not giving my vote. And I do know players who I've talked to very personally, who were fringe players, who either didn't stick for very long or didn't make it, or maybe got a cup of coffee and then never got back because of players, teammates that they felt were doing it and they weren't. And so to me, the sort of, air quotes, crime of steroids affected those guys in very tangible ways, affected their families, affected the game at that level, rosters at that level, certainly. And then more publicly and high profile, we've seen the explosion in offense and velocity and things like that we sometimes attribute to that. The guys, when it comes to the Hall of Fame, it's an honor. And I don't think it's honorable what they did.
Why does a guy like Big Papi get in? He's, I believe, has admitted it. Why does Big Papi get
He was, he's never admitted it. He was supposedly part of the survey testing. According to reports, he was one of the names on the list in the survey testing in 2003. I suspect that one of the reasons he gets in and some of the others don't is because the entire stretch of his career that led to the Hall of Fame came after there was teeth in the testing. So whether that makes the testing any good or not,
look it up. I guess before MLB instituted PED testing, they basically did a sample survey of some players, and Ortiz popped up as a positive, is what they're saying.
He's actually denied that. Well, he did. I don't know if he's since said anything, but I've never read or heard anywhere, and I covered him in Minnesota for a while, of him admitting it.
So he just had allegations around him.
Yeah,
There've been
whatever. And here's the thing: you do the best with what you have. This notion that there's other guys in there that have done it, well, why should that impact my position on it? I do my best. And in full disclosure, I voted for Ortiz, and I took into account the
allegations.
Well, I took into account that, but I also took into the account that like from 2004 on, that's when he became a star. And that's when there was teeth in the testing. That's when he was a Hall of Famer. Is there, you can take me to task for that if you want. But he also had, many other intangibles and so on and so forth. But had he done what he did in the way it looked, or had he popped a positive somewhere along the way in a public way, the way Palmeiro did, for instance, then I wouldn't have voted for him.
Okay, so here's my question for everybody out there, and we'd love for you to post your thoughts right here on our page. Give us your ideas to this question. Is it a good day today that the Cubs and Sammy have begun the process of mending fences, and it looks like he'll be at the Cubs convention? Are you supportive of this? There are others who go, I don't ever want to hear from him again. I think that, in my opinion, that's a horrible stance, because many of those people are Cubs fans today because of what this man accomplished throughout his career in Cubby Blue. I'm all in that he should be back. I had always maintained, and I told this to Sammy when I was with him one day in Florida. I said, look, the man makes the rules. Tom Ricketts, if you want a job from him, and he looked right in the camera, he said, look around. I've got 2 careers going here. I own this business. I own that business. I made a lot of money as a player. I don't need a job. I just want to be welcome back. And I said, if that's how you feel, you should absolutely be welcome back, because part of the allure and value and popularity of the Cubs is directly tied to what Sammy Sosa delivered during his career here.
Oh, I totally agree with that. And when we talk about that 98 home run chase, to a lesser degree,
oh man, I had a
Cal
front row
Ripken before
seat.
that, that it saved the game, or that it saved the popularity of the game. No question, because they were hemorrhaging attendance and viewership until then. Mm-hmm. And then it's been on a rise since. So, and then, the steroid era pumped up the game that way. That's why baseball wasn't really eager to drop the hammer. But if we want to say that the summer of '98, what it did for baseball, I mean, that's what Sammy did for the Cubs.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at,
we had a front row seat to history, man.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, there was, it was a long dormant franchise, and then Dallas Green comes in, and Rhino comes along, and that whole group, and they rekindle this excitement at Wrigley, and then Dallas is pushed out, and his guys cycle out, and then it's kind of dormant again. And then baseball goes through that horrible lockout and strike in '94, '95. I mean, it was Sammy that made the Cubs, that brought the Cubs back yet again, even got into playoffs again, and then all the way, and took them into the era that began with 2003. So his mark on the franchise is really undeniable, no matter how he did it. And if I have an issue with the steroids of the Hall of Fame vote, that has nothing to do with this.
Agreed. Totally agree. Gordon, happy holidays, man. Big news. Sammy probably going to be at the convention. It will be like the Beatles have come home.
Hey, wait. So I assume you want to see a statue at some point.
I got to see how this relationship moves forward. Both sides. How does Tom treat him? And how does Sammy treat the organization? But I'm thrilled that it's gotten at least the ball rolling in a positive
Can you imagine what the statue would look like? It would be the most sort of conspicuous statue of the bunch, because it would have to be his little hop.
Oh, it would have to be him as he goes like this with the hop. Yes.
Exactly. And then you could put it on the corner of Grace and Waveland.
That'd be unbelievable. Yeah, 3 blocks from the ballpark.
Hey, have a great day. Some of his home runs landed.
No question about that. Gordon, have a great day, man. Happy holidays to you and your great family. We appreciate you, man.
You too, Cap. Best
there he is, Gordon Wittenmeyer. Sammy Sosa. It's beginning to move in a very positive direction. He looks like he will be at Cubs convention, and he and Tom Ricketts have started the process of mending fences. For Gordon, for our great staff, happy holidays, everybody. I'm David Kaplan. Take that.